Welcome to Missional Trends, where we talk about the themes behind the brilliant thing God is doing right now, and we explore how we can play our part. And I'm joined in this one by Dub Everitt, who is the outreach pastor of Welcome Church. Welcome, Dub of Welcome Church.
Thank you.
Tell us what you're encouraged by at the moment.
It just seems as though God is doing something in a much bigger, or certainly more noticeable way than we've seen before. I'm the outreach pastor. One of my jobs at Welcome Church is to encourage lots of people in the church to do what they sort of naturally don't seem to want to do, which is to share their faith and share an invite. It seems as though God is personally stirring people to come along. And we're just seeing different people. There's a couple of teenage lads who they're year 11. One of their teachers is in our church, and he was leading worship a couple of Sundays ago, and he saw these two lads arrive in church, and he said to me afterwards, he said, "Yeah, they're the ones that cause me the most stress at school." He said one of them publicly challenges me in every single lesson, and likes to have a big argument with me. The other one throws Pritt sticks around the room and on the ceiling, and I have to remove them from the lesson most weeks. And he said they've now arrived at church.
Yeah, they brought up
Anyway,
sticks.
and so they then stayed for our newcomers lunch that day, and I chatted to them afterwards. I was like, "How come you came?" And this one lad, he just said, "Don't know really. I just felt like I needed to come to church." He says, "So I came last week and I've come back, and I brought my mate this week." And he was saying, "My mum thinks I've gone mad, but I'm going to get her to start coming." And that would just be one example of where you're just seeing God doing something really quite different in terms of just drawing people personally, and they're turning up, having not been invited by us, but perhaps invited by God.
Yeah, so good. And I guess a good time to be an outreach pastor. But Dan, you told me about, we've chatted before about how developing a kind of culture of invitation in your church, and you've really the great book, loving people towards Jesus. And can you give us some insight into what you've done in terms of developing that invitational culture, and how you've been equipping and inspiring believers to be able to do that?
We were opening our new building in January 2020, new chapel. We'd been hiring a conference centre for 10 years in the middle of Woking, which was just quite depressing for people in the church. And it was a depressing venue, and it didn't feel like the church was enjoying it or friendly either. When people were there, everyone just looked a bit fed up. We had a 6-month window going up to our building launch in January 2020. And I just felt maybe God just gave me a range of things, gave me a vision for a few things for our church. One was what I thought was a preaching series that turned into a book called Loving People Towards Jesus. One was what we end up calling the Hop, Skip and Jump range of invite events, where sort of really low bar, easy invitational events. We had a fun day, which was the hop. We had a fireworks night, which was the skip. We then added our carol service to make it the hop, skip, sing and jump. And the jump was our January building launch, January 2020, and I just felt really stirred that this was like a once in almost a generation in terms of the ease of a Sunday invite moment. And so, as a church that was becoming more friendly but not very invitational, we went on a journey from sort of September 2019, where everybody in the church got given the book, and loads of people read it. We then did a preaching series about Jesus and his interactions with all sorts of people, to inspire the church. And we launched what we called Welcome Stories, which were stories of people in Welcome Church and sharing their stories of Jesus transforming their lives. And we were putting them out once every few weeks, and in the build up to the building launch. And lots of people were sharing them, or we had sort of 10,000 views on lots of the videos, etc. So all these things sort of came together. We had a book that people were reading to be inspired, a preaching series to give them faith that Jesus is at work, and yes, he wants to be at work through you. A range of invite events, which were really easy for people to invite, and then a range of welcome stories, which were just sort of let's call it a promotional piece to show God's at work today. And it really made a difference. We had 500 guests coming to our fun day, which was just unheard of for us.
Wow.
And then we had more than that, probably 700 or 800 coming to our fireworks night. We had a few hundred coming to our carol service. And we got towards January 2020, and we thought, we were a church of 500 or so at that time, just over 500. We thought, wouldn't it be amazing to have 1,000 people there? Well, that was my thought. And there was the, Dub, you're being an evangelist again. That's never going to happen. 1,250 people came to our building launch, which was just incredible. And what was amazing was we sat there on the Monday afterwards thinking, well, I don't know how we made room for everybody. Will anybody come back next Sunday? And the following Sunday, we had 750 people, which meant that, 500 who turned up for week one didn't come for week two. But more importantly, more than 200 people who weren't at church 2 weeks before
Yeah.
were at church that following week. So the low bar events really gave people confidence that yes, I can make an invite, because it's not a scary invite. You're not asking me to share my faith yet. You're just asking me to be a friend and make an invite.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that. And the concept of hop, skip, and jump, the triple jump, you can go a lot further with a triple jump than one giant leap. And people found that. Like, I'd never invite someone to church out of the blue, but suddenly I've invited to a fun day and a fireworks night and to carols. I'm ready, and they're going to say yes to my Sunday invite. So that was a really important piece of just giving people confidence. That was the first time we did that. We then, after lockdown, a couple of years later, we repeated the hop, skip, and jump, and again the church saw lots and lots of people come to those events, and the church grew by about 200 again off the back of the hop, skip, and jump. The other thing that we've done is just worked really hard to make sure that every Sunday is invitational. Now, we use the term that other people use in terms of double barrel preaching. We want to feed the church, but we want every single Sunday to be a Sunday where the guests will come in and not feel weirded out, not feel I don't get what you're doing, but everything to be understandable, and yet to be impacted by God while they're there. And so we're big on hospitality. So on arrival, people will get a croissant, a pan au chocolat, or a cinnamon swirl, whatever. They get a nice coffee, and so people will just come in and, oh, right, this is good. They're generous. We've worked hard on Alpha as well. Alpha always seemed to me to feel disappointing in terms of how many guests would come. Other people would go, "Oh, Dub, come on, we're doing all right. We're doing all right." We had, up till summer last year, the 2 courses before that, we had 27 guests on each, which for us as a church at that time of probably 800 or so on a Sunday. I'm just thinking, where are all those other invites?
Yeah.
So we ran something called a Taste of Alpha. We ran 4 of them over 4 Wednesday evenings for people in the church, for Christians, to come and experience for themselves what an Alpha evening is like. So we treated them as a guest. They got they got their mocktails on arrival. They played our game of Kahoot we do every week. They had a nice 2-course dinner. They watched the videos. They had a discussion on their tables. They just got to experience what their friend would experience if they were to come on Alpha. We had 350 people from our church coming to one of those evenings each. And the next Alpha, we had over 100 guests complete the Alpha course.
Yeah.
And so Alpha grew by 4-fold because we took our church on a journey of experiencing it for themselves.
Yeah.
So I guess what my aim is to take down the high bar of evangelism that people imagine it is, helping people see that sharing Jesus is normal, natural, relational. And as people have started to go on that journey of making their invites, we've just seen a range of different people really surprised to see their friend get in and out of the baptism pool, having come to faith. And so we're still on a journey. We're not there. I mean,
that's kind of surprise.
It's a beautiful surprise. And we're on a really good journey. I still believe there's so much more for us. But in terms of numbers, as we came out of lockdown, we're back down to about 500 people on a Sunday. September just gone, we averaged over 1,000 people every Sunday. So the church has grown and grown, and that's gone up by about 200 in the last year.
Wow.
Which is amazing. Our youth has grown. On a Friday night, we were 90 something youth on a Friday on average before the summer. We're now 160 something on a Friday night. And out of the 16 baptisms 2 Sundays ago, I think 10 were youth. So God's doing an amazing work in our youth as well. Making it easy, making it simple. I've called it like the all play of loving people towards Jesus, because the high bar of evangelism, I'm really mindful of what stories of evangelistic success will we share. If we share the ones that people think that is amazing and I could never do that, I think the majority of people are thinking evangelism isn't for me. And so we just make a point of sharing stories of just things that feel so normal and down to earth and easy, yet look what God did in that relationship and look at what God has done in that person as a result, so that people are going, is that it? Oh, I could do that.
Yeah, Dub, that's absolutely so helpful. And I think anyone listening to this who wants to equip and inspire people in their church to reach out to their friends, I think are so helpful. Just a few kind of themes that jump out really. So there's teaching on it, giving people something to read. I think that's really helpful. I think the storytelling piece and encouraging people to tell their stories, absolutely amazing. But then I think it's that hop, skip, and jump, which again I felt when you talked about the kind of alpha course, giving a taster evening again with just helping people having those little steps in between. Loads to reflect on. Thanks so much, Dub. And if you're listening to this and thinking, actually, I'd love to equip and inspire people in my church to share their faith, and there's loads more and deeper insights on the Missional Trends homepage at the Evangelical Alliance website, as well as resources to help you make the most of the exciting times that we're in. So God bless you. Thanks so much, Dub, and see you next time.
Pleasure.